Welcome to the Real Film Nerds Podcast.
Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Real Film Nerds Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mr. Matt Hinshaw. Did I say that opening fast enough, Mike?
That was pretty fast.
I felt like the Micro Machine guy. For those of you who are like under the age of 30, you probably have no idea what Micro Machines are or what the Micro Machine guy is, but he was a dude that spoke really fast for the commercials, and I loved him as a kid. Anyways, as you heard, there's my good buddy, my co-host, Mysterious Mike.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
All right, Mike, so we're just going to start it right off the bat. Mike, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking Hoplift. It's an IPA that I got.
Of course.
You know, I like the IPAs.
Dude, do you ever drink anything other than an IPA?
Yeah, I drink some stouts and stuff here and there, and some various other kinds of beer. But a lot of times it is IPAs. Yeah,
because you're a beer snob. Just admit it.
I am. I like the ones that taste like sawdust.
They don't taste like sawdust to me. They're just bitter as hell. I can't stand IPAs, man.
Yeah, I like it really bitter.
I like the stouts. I like my browns. I like my ambers. I like my reds. I like my occasional, champagne beer.
Oh, yeah. No, everybody loves Miller High Life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a special place in my heart for some PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon. But, I don't know.
That's just because you could buy it by the pitcher. God, I remember those days in college at Long Wangs at ASU, man. It was like $5 pitchers or maybe even less than that. I don't remember.
Yeah, we had nickel beer night, and it was PBR, but it was like in cups that were pretty small.
Yeah, but, the Dixie cups.
Yeah, but it was only a nickel. I mean,
yeah. Well, there was I was just reminiscing about this the other day because one of my coworkers is turning 21 soon, or just turned 21 or something. And I was telling her, you're lucky you at least have 2 hours of drinking now. Back when you and I turned 21, they had what was known as the power hour because in Arizona, they stopped serving at 1 o'clock in the morning. And so it was a known myth that not myth, but it was like a rite of passage, I guess, where from midnight until 1 o'clock in the morning, you would go to a bar, you'd be standing outside, the instant it hit midnight, you walk inside and you drink as much as you can in that hour.
Yeah. I think they still did power hours in places that have longer than an hour, but yeah.
Yeah, they probably still do it here. They just call it the power 2 hours, but anyways, so I did mine at, I think the bar was called Palapas, if I'm not mistaken. It was a $10 cover, and then it was nickel beers, and they were in the tiny little cups, but you could order as many as you wanted, and I don't remember how many I drank, but I drank enough to feel it more than average.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the beer was. It might have been PBR, but I think it was probably something like Bud Light, or it was a keg of some kind of cheap beer.
Yeah, cheap beer. So Matt, speaking of that, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, you know me, Mike. I am always boring as hell. Well, I guess for those of you who live in Arizona, I'm boring as hell. For those of you who can't get the beer I'm drinking, you're probably intrigued. But I'm on my old trusty of the Four Peaks Kilt Lifter.
Well, Matt, didn't Kilt Lifter get purchased by a certain big name company? And I think it will start getting distribution to all 50 states.
Well, that's what I'm curious is when you start getting it.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Because they were purchased I think a year or two ago now by Anheuser-Busch, which kind of made me mad. But the owners of Four Peaks guaranteed that this is not going to change anything. I think they're still even there. They're running things. I think just Anheuser-Busch just is infusing them with a lot more money to be able to distribute their beers a lot farther and have more available. Like, that's one thing I've noticed since Anheuser-Busch bought them. We tend to get a decent selection up here in Prescott, but not a ton. And now they have more Four Peaks brews in cans and bottles here than I've seen in the past. Now, I'm not saying they have every single one of them, but they have more than just Kilt Lifter and their Stout and their Hop Knot. They have a bunch more now, which is great. So I'm all for that. As long as Anheuser-Busch stays out and doesn't frickin' make them change everything, I'm okay with it for now.
Yeah. No, I gotcha.
All right, Mike. So since this is not the beer podcast, but we do like to imbibe a fair share, we have kind of a rough one to discuss today, but it is our very first requested film. The production company contacted us and sent us a screener. So, and we, are going to do an unbiased review, as much as they're probably going to hate us. But today we are talking about a little film called Clyde Cooper.
Yep. It is awesome that we got contacted to review this movie, and we're going to give our honest opinion about what we thought about it.
All right, Mike. So with that ahead of the time, forewarning everyone and everything, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Go ahead and give us the rundown for Clyde Cooper.
All right. So it's directed and written by Peter Daskaloff. Its cast is Jordi Villasusa, Abigail Titmuth, Richard Neal, Aria Cervantes, and it is the synopsis is: a private investigator is hired to track down a missing girl on the run from a mysterious Silicon Valley corporation. And man, this movie's it's pretty rough to watch. I don't know. It's not that great.
Well, at least you're being honest.
It was I don't know. I guess that when I watched it, if I was in a laughing mood, I would have been probably hilarious. Like, I probably just would have been dying laughing. Because it's pretty bad. I don't know. Just the dialogue is very awkward. There's just, I don't know. The opening scene is just almost starts out kind of like a porn would.
Dude, I thought the exact same thing. When I clicked play on that, I was like, hold on, did we get catfished? Did some freaking porn company send us a porno to review? Like, I'm okay with that, but that's not really what we do here. And then, it started rolling into more and more. But seriously, the first minute and a half, I agree. I thought it was a porn because it just dives right into it. Although nowadays porn, they usually start out with a little bit of a story and then roll into the sex scenes. This one didn't really have much of a story and just rolled right into a sex scene.
Yeah. It definitely just started like that, and then I don't even know where to talk about because there's so many things that it.
Well, we definitely need to warn our audience and let them know this is a hardcore B movie. It is an independent film. It is definitely, funded by probably the actors, maybe some outside backers, but it's, this is not one that probably you would ever run across in a movie theater. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can rent this movie on Amazon and iTunes and the lot. This is what, I guess back in the day, Matt and I would call like a straight-to-video type movie. It might have been released in like a couple theaters or a theater for a week or something, but... it's definitely... It's a hardcore B movie. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And, you got to understand that going into watching it, that
The production value isn't going to be great. The acting was okay, a couple of them. The acting helps, I guess, with the plot point of the movie, which we'll get into later in the spoilers.
I guess it kind of helps with some of the things. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of work each other a little bit, the plot points and the acting and such. The only thing, and Mike and I have discussed this a little bit, the thing that I found the most redeeming about the whole movie is the story. The story isn't horrible. It's not earth-shattering, but it's not, it's average. And I'd say it was just poorly executed.
Yeah. For me, the dialogue just seems so awkward.
Yeah,
it just didn't like flow really well, and it just didn't. I don't know. It didn't seem realistic. You know how? I guess when the first time I saw I guess any of Quentin Tarantino's movies, I was like, oh, these are like real characters. This was the opposite.
Yeah. It was rough. The script was very rough.
Yeah,
I liked the how it was like a film noir. It's like the old detective kind of whodunit investigative story. Like, that's interesting, especially that it's dealing with a topic that takes place in Silicon Valley. But even then, like, his dialogue when he's talking, narrating the story, it still was kind of rough.
Yeah, the thing that I thought was a little odd about some of that stuff was it seemed like this movie was shot more like a daytime soap opera. And then the way, I don't know all the technical details, but it just didn't feel like a movie. Like, I don't know if it was the how many frames per second it was shot at, and that might have been it. It might have been shot at, 60 or 30 frames a second, and I was expecting 24. I don't know. But it just didn't seem quite movie-like, especially during those scenes where he's driving and narrating, or he's talking. And
I'm wondering if they shot a lot of that with like a GoPro, because GoPros have higher frame rates. The newer ones, I think you can adjust the frame rates, but they definitely have higher frame rates, and they don't have the best lenses on them, and they're fine for reality TV and stuff like that. But as far as trying to do a decent movie with them, that's kind of rough.
Yeah, Matt, this is a very strange thing to be bothered by, but I'm going to talk about it anyway.
I think I have an idea what you're going to say, and it bothered the hell out of me too.
Well, I'll be surprised if this bothered you too. But the main character in it, the detective, every time he pulled into somewhere, he never parked straight.
Oh no, I didn't notice that. Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the other thing that the main character does constantly, and that really kind of drove me nuts.
But he doesn't so there's at least 3 times in the movie when he was parking, he never parked in the spot. And I don't know if it was some kind of joke or if that's just how the character parks. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going with that's just how he does it, because he's a private investigator and he can do what he wants, Mike.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that was part of the character. All right.
Yep. Just like the thing that drove me bananas was how he was constantly vaping. Like, no matter where he was vaping. And I have to say, I think this is the first time I've seen a character in a movie vaping, and vaping so damn much.
Yeah, I have to say that that is one thing I will give this movie credit. They were vaping, or the main character was vaping quite a bit, and I have seen many people who do vape. That's kind of how it goes sometimes, and you're like, man, are you sure you should have quit smoking, kind of? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it's true. One of my relatives vapes, constantly, and he doesn't really care where or when. And I think that's how the vaping culture is, or at least used to be. Now I think they're cracking down on it quite a bit because, sure, it's not smoke, but it still smells freaking weird.
Oh, yeah. Well, they have all those candy flavors and like fruit and all kinds of stuff. Apparently, they're going to cut back on all that stuff because they're marketing to kids again. Yeah, that was unique, and I have not, to this day, seen anyone in any mainstream movie vape. So,
hey, they're groundbreaking on that front.
I will say, yeah, that was kind of cool. Matt, so there's a couple. So I love this shot. Like they kind of call it the vertigo effect, and I think they call it that because in the movie, the Alfred Hitchcock movie Vertigo, I think was the first time anybody ever did this, and it's like the push pull focus stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it was used in this movie a couple too many times. Like I like seeing it, but not over and over. I don't know if you noticed.
No, I didn't even notice, but see, now I'm going to have to go watch it again. No, I didn't even notice. There was a couple, different angles and things that they shot at that were unique that worked. Some worked and some didn't.
Yeah, like did you see that that angle where it was like there's somebody in the mirror and like yeah. I thought that was kind of like all right, I guess you're kind of trying to be creative, but I don't know. It still seemed a little weird.
Yeah. Well, at least they were, I mean, that's one of the great things, I guess you could say, about independent films and these smaller films is that the filmmakers aren't afraid to take risks because they don't have a big production company behind them saying it needs to look like this and you have to do this and it needs to, so they can take those risks, and if they work, that's great. If they don't, well, then at least, you didn't piss off the people funding your next movie.
Yeah. Matt, talking about the various parts of this movie, what did you think of the sound, like the music in the movie, like the score?
It was very strange.
Yeah.
It was very, very, very strange, and I thought it was going to be, because at least in the synopsis, as you were pointing out, it's like a film noir, and we talked about it earlier, but film noir, kind of detective kind of film. I thought something like that, they're typically shot when it's dark and when it's rainy, and it kind of has that stylized look to it, and this was shot in the middle of the day. It was bright and sunshiny.
Yeah, it was like broad sunlight the whole movie.
Right, and it didn't have big dramatic ominous almost music like most of film noir films do. So I don't know if that was experimentation or if that was the only time they could shoot, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It didn't work for me though. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Mike, how does Clyde Cooper relate to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Actually, scratch that, Mike. You know what? This is way too much of a B movie. It's going to be next to impossible. Don't worry about it on this one. We're just gonna pass this one over. Is that all right?
Yeah, man. I was really on the hot seat right there, man. I had looked and looked and looked. This is a very small movie, so not very many people were a part of it. And I tried to look at everybody's relation, and it seemed like it was a lot of other B movies, and I couldn't find anything. I was even looking like levels deeper, like more of a 7 Degrees Kevin Bacon type thing where you're trying to find someone who knows someone who knows someone who was on a Marvel movie. And I couldn't, I couldn't do it. At least in the time that I had spent on it. So I was, that's a relief, man.
It's all good. It's all good. We'll let it slide. Because, I mean, when I was looking up at the cast and things, and I was noticing a pattern, a lot of them are daytime TV, soap opera actors and actresses and things. And I was like, yeah, it was just a lot of TV actors, not a whole lot of film actors. So I'll I'll be nice on this one. All right, so that means it's spoiler time.
Okay. All right.
So if you want to watch Clyde Cooper without it being spoiled, go ahead and turn this off. If you would like to hear Mike and I go deeper, then keep listening. And I'm going to let Mike start off again as well.
Okay, so for this, I thought the fight scenes were very odd because they were just super, like it was like you started to see the fight and then it was cut and then it was over.
Yeah, they were very, 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 very tight. Very tight. And that's a technique a lot of filmmakers use that don't have a budget for a lot of fight scenes and choreography and stuff.
Yeah, and then when the I'm sure you noticed this as well, Matt, when the bad guys arrived, it was like very jarring.
Yeah.
Like it was just like it'd do this weird cutting thing and I was like, what just happened? Like it was,
and they almost didn't even feel like bad guys, but they were, but they weren't. Like they give you like right off the bat, there's the dude that's in like a warehouse talking on like a gold cell phone that looks like he's a drug dealer or a pimp or something. And I'm like, oh yeah, oh there's our bad guy. He's just going to be a lower down on the pole, but he's like the pimp of these girls, and we're just going to work our way up to the main boss. And I really didn't feel like there was much of that.
Yeah. There's in the opening scene, the somewhat pornographic kind of sex scene. There's a character in it who proceeds to shoot himself in the head, and I don't know why that was even in the movie.
Yeah, they never explained why he did that. The only thing I could think of is that maybe they were trying to tell you that these now here's the biggest spoiler for everyone. This is the very end of the movie and it ruins it all, but you know, it ties
Spoilers.
that front scene to it. Yeah, it's the women are all sex hungry hooker robots. And so that kind of makes sense, I guess, at the beginning, but not.
Yeah.
It's still, I don't like, is he like depressed because the only thing he can bang out is, you know, robots? But he probably doesn't know they're robots. He probably just thinks they're hookers. I don't know. That whole opening scene could have been just chopped.
Yeah. When our main detective guy gets picked up by a random woman and then dropped off, like that was actually okay. That was kind of funny. Like there's just some like things, I don't know.
Yeah, and the whole stunt of him rolling down the hill and then the car slamming on the brakes, like at the very last seconds, getting to a stop. It didn't look great, but I've seen a hell of a lot worse too. For this, you know, budget of a film and things, I thought it actually was okay.
Yeah, and then I guess out of all these odd things that happened in this movie, the oddest thing to me was these piano stairs.
Come on, man. That was like one of the best parts. It was straight out of Big. And who doesn't love Big?
No, I love Big. That was very weird to me. That was just a weird, and like when they ran up, it played certain keys, but when they were like running down, it was like they were jumping over keys. I was like, oh, come on.
Well, I didn't like that they didn't light up like in Big.
Oh, so okay. That's what's wrong. Got it. I, should have spent those extra bucks on the lighting for the keys.
Yeah, get a couple LEDs in there. It's fine.
Yeah. IKEA,
IKEA. Yeah, IKEA can do it all, man. But no, that was a very odd thing. But from my standpoint, I think it was maybe like a security measure. I don't know, because you hear the people going up the stairs, and then like when the hooker robot was like escaping and like running down the stairs, you heard her running down the stairs. So
yeah,
it still was weird, man. It still was very weird.
maybe it was supposed to be a security measure. I don't know. It was weird. And then the only other thing I think I'm going to complain about was there was some dialogue in here that was odd and sometimes repeated. And this particular phrase was, "What is this regarding?" Does anybody say that? Like, I don't know. Maybe in California. I don't know.
I don't know, man. Well, one of the things that bothered me a lot, but again, it's probably budgetary reasons and time schedules and things like that. But this is supposed to take place in Silicon Valley. And it clearly was shot in Southern California.
Oh, yeah. Well, for them saying it was in Silicon Valley, I didn't really get the feel of Silicon Valley. But, I mean, they didn't really show... There was no, landscape shots, really. It was mostly...
There was one of, downtown San Francisco, and that was it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then it was just kind of tight, just some driving things, and yeah, it wasn't... Yeah, that wasn't a highlight of the cinematography for sure.
Well, all right, Mike, I'm tired of having you tear this movie apart. It's brutal, Mike. It hurts. It hurts the soul. It's okay, though. It's a B movie. It was rough. It was a nice attempt, but was there anything you liked in it?
I don't know. I wanted to like this movie, too, because the description's cool, and actually the trailer for this movie is not terrible.
No, the trailer's probably better than the movie, honestly. I mean, Whoever cut the trailer, they did a really good job.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something that I liked in this movie. I don't know. I just didn't... I don't know. I just didn't really like it, but there was some potential, and I could see some things. It seems like everything just didn't fall together very good. And I mean, this movie was probably only shot in a few days, and I'm not saying that I could do any better. Making movies is hard, but yeah. I guess that's it.
All right. Well, on that note, then, Mike. How many reels do you give Clyde Cooper?
All right, so this might end up being my lowest rating. I give it 1 reel.
Well, I can argue against that because it is not your lowest rating. I think you gave, was it Mortal Engines?
No, it probably would have been, what was that Tusk? What did I give Tusk?
Was it Tusk? It might be Tusk because
Tusk was awful.
I'd have to look it up, but I'm actually going through. I haven't told you this yet. I'm actually going through and making a catalog of all the movies we've reviewed and the ratings we've done for them, so that when we come to our awards in literally almost a month, we can flip through them pretty quick,
Okay. Yeah.
It's just taking me a while. I mean, yeah, it's just data entry, but it's not going to... Anyways. And I know that you have a half a reel somewhere, but I don't remember what movie. I'd have to look it up again. But I thought it was Mortal Engines, but it might have been Tusk. It's something.
It's probably Tusk, man. I really hated that movie. So Tusk I hated. This movie, I don't hate it, but there wasn't very many things to like in it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. All right, Mike. Well, I am close to you. I give it 1.5 reels. And the reason for the extra little half, or maybe the 1, I don't know, is the story. I mean, I honestly think the story, if they worked it a little bit, they worked the script a little bit, had some money in there to do the production a little bit better, and I think the story has potential, and that's the 1.5 reels for me. That's why I gave it, because the story, it's not a great story, but I like the film noir aspect. I think it was just poorly executed and the script was poorly written. So,
yeah.
So, all right. Well, Mike, what are we going to talk about for next week?
I think we were going to talk about the M. Shyamalan Ding Dong movie, M. Night, the Glass, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, we're going to try and do Glass on Tuesday. And Thursday, aren't we going to do that Joaquin Phoenix movie?
Yeah, I Wish You Were Still There, I think, is the... it's on Prime Video, I believe, right now.
Yes, yeah. It's I Wish You Were Still Here, I believe. And I personally would like to see this movie a lot because I think it might be up for a bunch of awards soon because the critics really love this movie, and it's, Joaquin Phoenix, he's always a freaking powerhouse when it comes to acting. So for those of you who want to be involved in our Thursday podcast next week, go ahead and watch that if you got Amazon. It's on there streaming for free on Amazon Prime. So
Yeah. So yeah, those will be the movies for next week, and we look forward to talking to you again next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you for listening to The Real Film Nerds. Now don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Real Film Nerds. Now go out and catch a movie.